Okay, let's just dive right in. You know how a totally normal weekend activity can sound completely different depending on where you're standing on the globe? Like in the UK, you're going to the cinema, but hop over to the US and you're going to the movies. And actually, fun fact, if you were in Canada, you might even hear someone say they're going to the bioscope. It's the exact same activity, the same base language, but a totally different set of words. Welcome to this explainer. What we're going to see today is that English, well, it isn't just one single rigid set of rules. It's this highly adaptable, truly global tool, and it morphs drastically based on where you are and honestly, who you're talking to. If you've ever felt like you're speaking a completely different language than the person standing right next to you, you are in the exact right place. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll hit the 3 circles of English, dive into Southeast Asian English varieties, check out the rules of social language, and wrap up with the 5 types of registers. All right, starting with section 1, the 3 circles of English. Now, while the absolute oldest variety of the language is British English, the most widely used today is actually American English. But hey, they are far from the only players on the field. You've got Canadian, Australian, New Zealand, South African, and Indian English, and these are all just as vital to the global conversation. They represent incredibly unique, living forms of the language. And this brings us to this really brilliant model known as the 3 concentric circles of English. It basically maps out countries by exactly how they use the language. So smack in the middle is the inner circle. These are places where English is spoken as a native language, like the USA, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Stepping out a bit, there's the outer circle. These countries speak English as a second language. Think Hong Kong, India, Malaysia, Singapore, and the Philippines. And finally, the expanding circle. This includes nations like China, Egypt, Japan, and Saudi Arabia, where English is used as a foreign language. It's just a really fantastic way to visualize this massive global footprint, right? Let's zoom in a bit for section 2, Southeast Asian English varieties. It's honestly fascinating how Philippine English takes a totally clinical medical term and flips it into a vivid emotional state. Like if someone says they are high blood, they aren't, checking into a clinic for hypertension. Nope, they're telling you they are extremely tense, angry, or upset. It's a wonderfully descriptive regional twist on the language. Then, jumping over to Malaysian English, you get these brilliant metaphorical evolutions. If someone calls you popcorn, they definitely aren't offering you a salty movie snack. They are straight up saying you talk way too much. Like popcorn, you're just popping off constantly with words. And over in Singapore English, you'll encounter a whole unique vocabulary. If you are axy, well, you're someone who likes to show off. And you might hear that right alongside calling a nurse a missy or using a chop instead of a rubber stamp. It is this highly localized, perfectly tailored evolution of English. Before we leave geography entirely behind, just take a second to appreciate the sheer creativity in some of these other Philippine English terms. You've got pramdi for someone from the province, a blowout, which is when you treat someone to a snack or meal, a stick for a cigarette, and this is a great one, a balikbayan box for that giant box of shopping Filipinos returning from abroad bring with them. It just perfectly proves that language is always adapting to fit the daily cultural habits of the people actually using it. So we've seen how language morphs based on where you are in the world, but it's equally important to ask what happens when the social situation changes, because frankly, geography is really only half the story here. Which brings us to section 3, the rules of social language. Understanding your social context relies entirely on this 3-part framework: field, mode, and tenor. The field is the social setting and the communicative purpose, basically what is actually going on. The mode is how the text is constructed, is it spoken out loud or written down? And the tenor is the relationship between the speaker and the audience, who is actually involved. Every single time you open your mouth to speak, you are subconsciously navigating these 3 elements in real time. Pretty wild, right? And that leads us to section 4, the 5 types of registers. Linguists actually map this out across 5 distinct registers: static, formal, consultative, casual, and intimate. They range all the way from the most rigid historic language on one end to the absolute most private, personal ways we speak to each other on the other. Figuring out exactly where your current conversation falls on this spectrum is absolutely crucial for effective communication. Okay, at the far end, we have the static or frozen register. This is basically a one-way street of communication that's just locked in time and tradition. This language rarely, if ever, changes.